Welcome to another video from 55 degrees north. Today we're heading into the green heart of Newcastle upon Tyne to uncover the story of Leazes Park, a place that's been part of city life for over 150 years. It's a story that begins in the Middle Ages with kings, commoners, cattle and a city that would one day cry out for an open air space to breathe. From its origins as common meadowland in the 13th century, through Victorian ambition, wartime decline and modern renewal, Leazes Park has stood as a symbol of the people's right to green space, a living monument to Newcastle's resilience and community spirit. The story of Leazes Park begins more than 800 years ago in 1213. At the time, Newcastle was a medieval town fortified by walls and towers. Beyond those walls stretched open meadows known as the Leazes, part of the vast Town Moor. That same year, King John, yes, the notorious monarch of Robin Hood fame, granted these meadows to the townspeople of Newcastle. The land was to be used for grazing cattle, ensuring that ordinary citizens had access to food and pasture. It was a remarkable act of civic foresight. For centuries this land remained public, protected from private ownership and commons in the truest sense. This decision, made more than 8 centuries ago, set the stage for what would one day become Leazes Park, a park born from the people's land. Fast forward to the mid-1800s. Newcastle was booming, a city of iron, coal and shipbuilding. But prosperity came at a cost. The air was thick with smoke, the rivers polluted, and working class families lived in crowded, unsanitary conditions. Epidemics like cholera swept through the city. Doctors and reformers began to recognise what we all now take for granted, that access to green open space was essential to health. In 1857, people took matters into their own hands. Nearly 3,000 working men of Newcastle and surrounding area signed a petition to the City Council asking for, quote, ready access to some open ground for the purpose of health and recreation. It was a democratic cry from the heart, a demand not for charity but for the dignity of fresh air and beauty. That petition would change the city forever. Among those who heard the call was Alderman Sir Charles Frederick Hamond, a man of vision and perseverance. Along with fellow councillor William Henry Harley, he championed the creation of a public park for the people of Newcastle. But nothing came easy. Initial proposals for the park at Castle Leazes dated back to 1848, drawn up by architect Thomas Oliver. The plan was ambitious and expensive. Worse, it faced stiff opposition from the freemen of Newcastle, who held the ancient grazing rights to the Town Moor. Proposal was shelved, but not forgotten. By 1861, Charles Hamond revived the idea. He knew the city needed it, and this time he had support. Naturalist John Hancock, the man behind Newcastle's Hancock Museum, was commissioned to design the park. His plan was rich with botanical features, lakes and grand walks, but again it proved too elaborate and costly. In the end, town surveyor John Fulton was asked to merge Hancock's and another local designer's ideas, that of John Lann, steward of Lord Armstrong. Fulton's compromise design was elegant yet affordable, costed at around £2,750. It took 16 long years from that first 1857 petition before the dream finally took shape, but by the early 1870s, Newcastle's first public park was about to be born. Work began in 1872. The site chosen lay just northwest of the city centre, beside Leazes Terrace. It was a natural slope, perfect for creating a scenic lake and landscape walks. Fulton's team dug deep into the hillside, carving out the lake and using the soil from the broad embankment or dam at its southern edge. The widening of the footpaths, rolling lawns that still define the park today began to emerge. On December 23rd, 1873, Leazes Park officially opened. Alderman Hamond presided over the ceremony. For the first time, Newcastle's people had a park of their own, a people's park built by and for the citizens. The Victorians didn't stop at greenery, they loved grandeur. In 1875, the cast iron bandstand was installed on the terrace overlooking the lake. Every Sunday, crowds gathered for free brass band concerts, rich and poor alike, the music echoing across the water. Then came the ornamental terrace in 1879, lined with stone, classical urns and statues, a promenade where people came not just to walk, but to be seen. By the 1890s, Leazes Park had grown again, with a second lake near Leazes Terrace, a grand palm house filled with exotic plants, and a splendid Jubilee Gates erected in 1896 to mark Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. The park became a showpiece, its own Hyde Park, alive with families, flowers and the sound of brass bands. By the dawn of the 20th century, Leazes Park was the jewel of Newcastle. In 1905, a bronze bust of Sir Charles Hamond was unveiled at the centre of the terrace, a fitting tribute to the man whose determination made it all possible. The park now featured deer enclosures and aviaries, delighting children and visitors alike. Sports were flourishing too, with tennis courts, croquet lawns and bowling greens becoming fixtures of community life. Leazes Park had matured into something more than just a park. It was Newcastle's living room, a democratic space where everyone could share the city's civic pride. 2 world wars left their mark on Leazes Park. During both, the park offered respite and morale to soldiers, nurses and families. But by the mid-20th century, changing times brought challenges. The palm house disappeared, likely due to damage and cost. The second lake was drained and in the 1920s replaced with tennis courts and bowling greens. During World War II, the park's decorative iron railings were taken for the war effort. By the 1960s, the Grand Victorian bandstand had been demolished and the park statues and urns had vanished. The deer and the aviaries were gone too. The park was quieter now, still loved but faded. Through the 1970s and 80s, Leazes Park entered a period of neglect. Paths crumbled, fountains dried up and flower beds turned to weeds. But the community didn't forget it. By the 1990s, local residents were rallying once again, forming the Friends of Leazes Park group and launching the Newcastle Community Green Festival in 1995. What began as a protest against development became a joyful celebration of nature and community, the spirit of 1857 reborn. The new millennium brought new hope. In 2001, Newcastle City Council, backed by the Heritage Lottery Fund, secured £3.7 million to restore Leazes Park to its Victorian splendour. Every detail was studied, old plans, photos, even surviving pieces of ironwork, to recreate the park as it had been over a century before. The result was extraordinary. A new bandstand, faithfully modelled on the 1875 original, was built in 2003. The ornamental terrace was reconstructed with new statues and urns cast from the last surviving original. 2 majestic stone lions were placed at the terrace steps, guarding the view over the lake. The gardens were replanted with Victorian-style flower beds, pathways resurfaced, bridges repaired and lighting modernised. In 2004, Leazes Park reopened to the public, once again a park of beauty, music and pride. It was now Grade 2 listed historic park, protected for future generations. Today, Leazes Park is thriving once again. It holds a Green Flag Award for excellence in park management. Its lake remains home to swans, ducks and moorhens, cared for by the Leazes Park Angling Club. The lawns host picnics, fitness groups and festivals. From the Green Festival to Northern Lights, a dazzling winter illumination trail that draws visitors citywide. There's a cafe for coffee and conversation, playgrounds for children and peaceful paths for reflection. And next door, towering over the treetops, stands St James's Park, Newcastle United's home. On match days, the roar of the crowd becomes part of the park's soundtrack. In times of joy, stress and even lockdown, as seen during the COVID-19 pandemic, Leazes Park has remained a refuge, a green lawn in the heart of a bustling city. From its medieval origins to its modern renaissance, Leazes Park tells a powerful story, not just the landscape, but of the people. It's a story of ordinary citizens who demanded beauty and health in an industrial age, of a city that has rallied to save its heritage, and a park that still belongs proudly and forever to the people of Newcastle. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a comment below and give the video a massive thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to 55 Degrees North and hit that bell for more stories just like this. A massive thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on 55 Degrees North.